Early season mountain hiking looks amazing on Instagram, but the reality is usually this: snow, mud, slushy trails, and water running straight down the path. And every spring, I see hikers making the same mistakes. They dress like it's summer. So if you're getting back out on mountain trails this spring, here's what to wear so you stay warm, dry, and actually have a good time. So, first, let's start with waterproof footwear. The number one thing that ruins early season hikes is wet feet.
The words.
A lot of spring trails turn into little rivers because snow is melting higher up on the mountain. Water runs straight down the trail, and muddy, goopy sections are pretty darn common. So, if your shoes aren't at least somewhat water resistant, your feet can get really soaked really fast. This time of year, I usually wear waterproof hiking boots or waterproof trail running shoes. And don't forget to pay attention to your socks. Wool socks are going to be way better than cotton socks for spring hiking because they dry faster and still insulate even if they get a little damp. Yes, most hikers will tell you wool is better all year long, but I think this is an especially important tip during the spring. Cotton basically just holds on to all that water. And since wet feet are likely during early season hikes, it's just easier to pull some wool on your feet and call it good. If it's a particularly wet hike, I'll even throw an extra pair of wool socks into my backpack. Because even if you're wearing waterproof footwear, snow and slop can still find their way over the top of your shoes. Next up, we have gaiters. This is important because gaiters are critical.
Hallelujah.
Gaiters are one of the most underrated pieces of gear for early season hiking. They cover the top of your boots and your socks and the bottom of your pants and keep snow, mud, and slush from getting inside your shoes. If you hit soft snow, which happens a lot in the spring, your foot can punch through the surface. And that's called post holing, which is also known as the seventh circle of hell. And without gaiters, snow goes straight into your shoes. On early season hikes here in Colorado, gaiters make a huge difference with this. You don't need big mountaineering ones. Lightweight hiking gaiters will work great too. I have a few pair of winter trail running shoes that have built-in gaiters, like this one pair by Solomon, for example. And these can be nice if conditions are fairly dry, fairly mellow, but just a little wet. But more often than not, I do want real hiking gaiters that reach about halfway up my shin. If I'm gonna do it, I may as well do it right? Next, let's talk about our layering system because this is critical. Big challenge with early season hiking is the temperature swings. You might start the hike early in the morning when it's absolutely frigid outside, but then be climbing in the full sun in 1,000 degrees an hour later. So the key is having a simple layering system. First, you're going to have your base layer. This is your next to skin layer that's breathable and moves sweat away from your body. This is crucial, especially during the early morning hours when it's chilly outside. Next up, we have your mid layer or your middle layer, like a fleece or lightweight puffy that you use for warmth when temperatures drop. I often have this in my backpack and don't usually put it on until I reach the summit or the high point or wherever I stop and turn around and probably have lunch. Lastly, you're going to want a shell layer for wind and weather. This is like the impenetrable fortress. It only offers a little warmth, but it does a great job of keeping moisture and wind out. It's really annoying to constantly take layers on and off during hikes, but it's kind of inevitable during the spring. I'll often start with my base layer and hard shell on, and I'll be a little chilly. Like, I'll wish I had my puffy on too. But I won't overheat as quickly with the shell and can usually dump heat with the pit zips. When I finally get truly warmed up after moving on the trail, I'll toss the shell in my backpack and just hike in my base layer. If my hike goes above tree line where it's windy and cold, that's usually when the shell goes back on. This is also why having a backpack is crucial. You need somewhere to stash all those layers. Next, we have the category that I call the small things that people forget. There are a couple of small pieces of gear that make a surprisingly big difference when you're doing early season hikes. First is a light pair of gloves, like liner gloves. Early in the morning or when you gain elevation, your hands can get really cold really quickly, especially if you're touching snow or cold rocks or even your trekking poles. A thin pair of lightweight gloves doesn't take up much space or weight, but can make the first part of the hike and the last part a lot more comfortable. Secondly, of course, Don't forget a hat and a beanie. Cold mornings, wind, higher elevations, all of that on your little head makes you feel cold, and a simple hat is going to help a ton. You'll especially want this during dawn patrols. And as the day warms up, you'll probably switch to the trucker cap for sun protection. Which, of course, brings me to another thing that people underestimate this time of the year. And yes, I'm talking about sun protection. Spring sun can actually be really intense in the mountains. You've got the higher elevation, the longer daylight, and often snow is reflecting sunlight back up at your face and your skin. And in the spring, you're probably coming out of winter like me with skin that hasn't seen the light of day in months, making it super susceptible to sunburns. So even if the air temperature feels cool, it's really easy to get sunburned. I almost always bring sunglasses, sunscreen, lip balm with SPF, and a hat, like I said earlier, for sun protection during spring hikes. If it's a weird mixture of chilly but bright outside, I'll often pull on my trucker cap and then pull on a lightweight neck gaiter over top of it. This means the hat still protects my face, but the gaiter protects my neck while still giving my ears a little warmth and wind protection. It's a weird mountain look, but whatever. It works. Okay, let's talk about our bottom half. Pants versus shorts. It is a hot debate. I have friends that will literally never hike in pants, no matter the temperatures. Something about the fabric feeling weird on their legs or touching them or something. I don't know. So let me preface this by saying, you do you. But also, I almost always wear pants for early season hiking. That's because spring trails often need snow patches, ice, mud, wet brush, overgrown shrubs, and chilly temps, and freaking brisk winds above tree line. My baby legs are not yet ready to face all of that. So I opt for pants and often hiking tights to help keep me warm and protect my skin from Mother Nature. If I know it's going to be a snow-filled adventure, I'll usually opt for a pair of waterproof pants. Often, post-holing will lead to wet fabric at the ankles, but if it keeps happening, the moisture absorbs right up the pant leg. And if you're in cotton pants, that's especially bad, and then you get cold and wet. So waterproof pants just make this easier. But all that said, if you're hiking at lower elevations and it's a warm day, shorts can still work. I just went for a lunchtime hike here yesterday and it was about 55 degrees outside, and I definitely wore shorts because I was only at 6,200 feet in elevation. I knew there'd be no snow and I'd only be gone for 40 minutes. So you've got options. This is a big one, my friends. Traction. Folks visiting Colorado from other states are often surprised to find snow in April or May or even June, but that's just the reality of the high country. So don't get caught off guard by slippery conditions. Snow melts during the day and then refreezes overnight, especially in shaded sections of the trail. Naturally, this turns the trail into glass. So you can end up hitting these icy patches even when most of the hike is dry, and especially above tree line where it can linger well into July. This is where micro spikes or lightweight traction can make a huge, huge difference. These micro spikes give you grip on icy sections so you're not sliding around like a newborn deer. And if they're easy, you just toss them inside your backpack. Even if I don't use them, I almost always have them in my pack because it would sure be a dumb way to break my face. Spring hiking can actually be one of the best times to be in the mountains. There's fewer crowds, there's snowy peaks, there's still wildlife bopping around, and there's truly beautiful conditions. You just have to be prepared for the snow and the mud and the whatever else that comes with it. And if you're planning more hikes this season, check out my other early season hiking video that I did last week on the channel. Can't wait to see you out there.